During my time here at Halfwheel, I have reviewed dozens of cigar accessories, but there's only one review that has ever led to people emailing me asking if they can buy the product that I reviewed. Hello, my name is Charlie Minato, and the product in question is this. It is the Rimowa Travel Humidor, and no, you cannot buy it. So, as the name implies, it is a travel humidor from the German luggage brand Rimowa. Like most Rimowa luggage, or at least the classic Rimowa luggage, it features an aluminum exterior, and unlike most modern Rimowa luggage, it has wood on the inside. It has Spanish cedar, and if you're counting at home, you'll see 10 or 12 slots. And I'm going to close it. It's going to make a nice audible thump. And then the latch. And that's it. It's pretty simple. I'm sure that didn't stop me from making a 15-minute video on YouTube about how to use this thing. And I reviewed it about 7 or 8 years ago, and at the time I reviewed it, I noticed it was being discontinued or had been discontinued. Even before it was discontinued, it was pretty difficult to find. I don't think Rimowa did a great job of promoting the fact that it had it for sale. It was only available at Rimowa flagship stores, so not even all stores, let alone all the stores that sold Rimowa luggage at the time. And like I said, it's been 7 or 8 years, and I get emails at least once a year, usually multiple times per year, and I'm sure I'm going to get one after this review. People offering to buy it. Some people have made offers to actually buy it, and I'm not interested in selling it. And there's a couple reasons why. First, it's discontinued, and I don't know how to replace it. Secondly, Rimowa has a bit of a cult following. I may or may not be part of that. I may or may not own multiple coffee table books about Rimowa. And thirdly, I don't even know where you'd find a similar product. I don't know, or at least did not know, of another company that was selling an aluminum travel humidor like this with a Spanish cedar inside, at least not until late last year. This is the TUMI Cigar Case, and as its name implies, it is a cigar case from the American luggage brand TUMI. I was unaware that TUMI was selling cigar accessories, at least until last October when I saw an Instagram ad for this product, which I did not know existed. And come to find out, TUMI's not only selling this, but they also got a variety of three-finger cigar cases that are sold in different materials. But this was the star of the show, so last October we purchased it for $495. That price is now, at least as of August 2025, $550. I don't know when the price change took place, but it has gone up in price. So as far as the basic exterior dimensions, it is 8.5 inches long from here to here, 6 inches from here to here, and 3 inches from here to here. It is made of aluminum. It has a Spanish cedar inside. It is from a luggage company. It is designed to hold cigars. It is very, very similar in a lot of ways to that Rimowa case, but also pretty different in some substantial ways. So on the exterior, the most notable differences are that the TUMI pattern is not straight like the Rimowa. Instead, it's angled. This is part of the 19 Degrees aluminum collection, which is TUMI's highest end line, or one of its highest end lines, and quite frankly seems pretty geared at trying to poach customers from Rimowa. But the 19 degrees part means that it's angled. The other noticeable change is that this is right here. This is another TUMI staple. It is a patch, a leather patch to have monogrammed, which is included with the purchase price. And I think you can also go to a TUMI store post-purchase to have it monogrammed. I've never done that with any of my TUMI luggage, but your mileage may vary. To open up the case, which will reveal a lot more differences, there is this latch right here, or this sliding locking mechanism. It's got to go this direction, so you push it like this. It is possible to open up this thing with one hand, but it is a bit difficult, and even quite frankly, to open it from this angle is somewhat tough. It is easier when it's facing you. And now you'll see the really noticeable differences on the interior. So the bottom looks pretty familiar. Can hold 5 cigars. I found it to be capable of dealing with anything 7.25 inches long and up to 60 ring gauge. 64, it seemed like the cigars would probably be fine, but they're probably getting smushed. 70, it's totally not going to close, and an 8-inch cigar is not going to fit in here, at least not anything other than diagonally. Maybe at 19 degrees it does fit. But the big change is up top in the top shell, and that's because this is not used to store cigars. Instead, it's an accessory compartment. And so there are these, on the outsides, these leather doors, essentially, that cover up some accessories. So right here is a TUMI branded match case, no matches included. And on the other side is a TUMI branded double guillotine cutter. One nice thing here is that there are magnets at both ends of the case, and so these metal accessories are held into place not just by that leather door, but also by the magnets. Now on the middle, there's a couple of different things going on. So up top right here, which you can see right now, is a barcode and serial number. This is part of TUMI's registration process. You go to register the product, you get a 2-year warranty. And in addition, and this makes a lot more sense for luggage than cigar cases, but it could work out here. If you lose the product and someone finds it, they can enter this serial number on TUMI's website, and then TUMI will get in contact with you and arrange how to get the product back to you. I've never done that. And then at the bottom, which can be revealed by this sort of sliding elevator-like door, is a place to put a humidity pouch. Now, one is not included, but it's clearly designed to store an 8-gram Boveda or a similarly sized Integra Boost or Cigar Oasis packet. So as far as setup is concerned, it's pretty simple. The instruction manual says to take a damp cloth and wipe down both the inside and outside, then to take a dry cloth and to dry both the interior and exterior, and then to take a cloth and some alcohol and rub down the inside and then let it air out for 24 hours prior to use. I skipped those last two steps, the ones pertaining to the alcohol rub down. That seemed a bit overkill to me, but I did want to do some seasoning, like a minor amount of seasoning. It's not a desktop humidor, so I'm not as concerned, but I do know that at some point I'm going to inevitably forget and leave cigars in here for a month, and I didn't want the dry wood sucking all of the moisture out of the cigars. So I instead took a Boveda pack, put it inside, left it shut for about a month, and then after that, I opened it up and started using it. So I've been using the cigar case for most of 2025, and after 8 months of not daily, but more than weekly use, I've developed a list of good attributes and some bad things. So I'm going to start with the good stuff, and first and foremost, it's the build quality. It's quite frankly what I would expect after owning a few products from TUMI over the last decade, and that's that it's not going to be bottom of the barrel, obviously. It's also not going to be at the top of the totem pole. Most importantly, it's not a mid-tier brand. I look at TUMI as a sort of upper mid-tier brand, and given the $550 price tag, that's where I would say this is positioned. And with that, I would expect sort of no major failures, no major flaws, and, probably a little bit of, minor here and there quibbles. And that's what I found. So, for example, I never had an issue where I went to pick up the case and the latch just failed and it opened. Never once found it to open up my bag and the thing is open. Never had any issues with anything inside cracking or anything quite like that. There is some, things you got to live with the aluminum. It's going to dent. It's going to scratch. It has multiple dents and scratches. If you don't like that, don't buy an aluminum travel humidor because it's going to happen. But when I examine it closely, the finish is not as nice, say, as that Rimowa case, which I would consider to be a tier or two above. For example, up close, when I examine the wood where the cigars are placed, the sanding on the Rimowa is better. It feels a bit more solid than the piece, the tray insert that's in the TUMI case. I don't know if I would be able to tell that if both cases weren't directly in front of me and I didn't have a long, history of using the Rimowa case, but it is noticeable when I go looking for those differences. The second thing in terms of sort of what I got what I paid for would be that it doesn't look like a standard cigar case or really any other cigar case other than the Rimowa case. And, I think that's important. It's not my favorite design, but I do like it better than most cigar cases. I do sort of just wish that the lines were either 90 degrees or 180 degrees, but not at the 19-degree angle. And speaking of that, it leads to a feature that I really have loved with the Rimowa case, and I tested it out here, and that is that this case can be used as a cigar rest. And so these lines are actually kind of like the perfect width to hold a cigar. So you just take the cigar and put it like this. And that way, when you're traveling and you go somewhere that doesn't have an ashtray or doesn't have a cigar ashtray, this works out great. There is one minor problem that I was somewhat surprised by, and that is that the case doesn't want to lie flat. And you can see and hear what I'm talking about in a second. Now, you might be thinking okay, well, this piece right here is protruding outwards. So that's obviously not going to lie flat. And you can see on the screen that it's not going to work. But there's nothing on this side of the shell that would seemingly lead to that. And yet that's exactly what happens. And if you're wondering, here is the Rimowa case. And so I'm going to put the same amount of pressure. And that's because these lines aren't all the same size, and so it leads to that little weird quirk. Certainly doesn't prevent me from using it as a cigar rest, but it was a minor annoyance. I actually found that the best way to do it was to use the other side. The leather helps to prevent it from moving around as much. It still does. The final part of this review is going to focus on just one aspect of the TUMI cigar case, and it is the interior accessories storage compartment. I will say, if this has to be here, which it totally does not, I do think TUMI's done a good job of implementing it, at least making it look nice. I like the wood. I think the leather is better than not having it. The pull tabs are useful. I really think the magnets were a smart implementation. This piece is oddly satisfying to fiddle with. The problem is that this does not have to be here, and it does come with some very serious cons. Most notably, it reduces the potential storage capacity from what could be 10 cigars if the bottom and top mirrored one another to 5 cigars. But even other things, like, for example, if the top piece looked like the bottom piece, this could hold some 70 regular cigars. Not 10, but it could hold at least some of them, something that is entirely not an option right now. But I think my largest issue is that I know from my own personal experience using hard shell travel humidors that being able to store cigars is important, and being able to maximize the space is super important when it comes to traveling. Because when I'm packing my bags to get on a plane the next day, eventually there comes this point almost every time where there's too much stuff going into my suitcase. I need to take some things out. One of the easiest things to streamline is to take the cigars out of the travel humidor, put them in a plastic bag, put a Bovida inside, find some clothes, put them inside the clothes, and without fail, I think, it will get from point A to point B, the purpose of a travel humidor, without any damage, and I can smoke the cigars when I get to my destination. But with this, I don't know. Like, it obviously will store the cigars just fine, but I'm not getting any benefits out of the matchstick holder. It's a lot of wasted space up top. And I think that what that means is that for a lot of people that end up with this because they bought it or because someone was very generous and bought it for them as a gift, I think you're going to be leaving it home a lot more than you would expect because it is very, very bulky to just store 5 cigars. And for that reason, I cannot recommend the TUMI Cigar Case. If you would like to read other reviews of travel humidors or travel cases, you can check out halfwheel.com, where I have reviews of humidors as well as other humidification products. Brooks Whittington reviews cutters, Patrick Lurie reviews lighters, we all review cigars, and we cover the premium cigar industry on a daily basis.